Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Global Compliance Panel's live webinar on specification development. My name is Michael, and I'll be your host for today's session. And on behalf of the Global Compliance Panel team, I'd like to thank you all for being part of today's event. Today's webinar is being presented by Melinda Allen. A few words about Melinda before we start off today's session. Melinda is a food safety and quality consultant in the food industry, and she's had a long and dedicated career of quality assurance and food safety leadership with companies such as Yum Brands and Quiznos. Her consulting clients have included leaders in the field such as Burger King, Panda Express, and Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen. And she continues to work with many of these and additional clients as well. And Melinda and her team of experienced professionals are available for quality assurance and food servicing auditing, specification and program development and training, and product commercialization as well. We're honored to have Melinda with us today to present today's webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start off today's session, I just want to quickly outline today's program. This webinar is for a 60-minute duration. First, Melinda will take you to today's webinar, highlighting the areas that she would cover, and then share with you her presentation. And also would like to inform you all that during the start of today's session, you'll be placed on mute and would remain so till the end of the session. You have over 10 minutes at the end for your Q&A. And for any reason, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, you can place them in the Q&A panel or the chat messenger, and we can get to your questions at the end of the session. And if you do get logged out of today's session, please follow the same procedure to join in again. Now that we're all ready, I request Melinda to take it from here. Melinda?
Thank you, Michael. I really appreciate that introduction and sharing my background. I want to welcome everyone today. Thank you for joining this webinar, and I hope that this will be informative, as well as hope that you'll ask any questions that you have. As you know, we're here to talk about specification development. And without further ado, let me take you through the agenda for the day. We'll talk about the objectives and benefits of having specifications, as well as talk about what they should contain, including a detailed description, incorporating quality control points, validating the chemical, physical, and micro tolerances that will be a part of your specifications, as well as the testing and verification expectations that your customers will have, as well as that you'll want to set up for your own company. We'll also touch on regulatory and company requirements that are typically included, and document control methods. At the end, we'll just have a brief summary, and there is an attendance acknowledgement form at the end that you can add to your files. So starting with the objectives and benefits of why we want to have specifications, it's really critical to have a specification for every product that you purchase. This is not only a best practice, but it's also a GFSI requirements. If you're getting certified in any of the Global Food Safety Initiative schemes, you will be required to have specifications for every product as well as every service. We're going to focus on products at this time, but if you have any questions about service specifications and contracts, that's also another topic that we can talk about and cover. So please share that with the Global Compliance team if you are interested in that area. So what the specification really needs to do is define the product and process that the customer is purchasing. So we want some place that they can go and understand exactly what it is that you're expected to deliver, and a place where they can communicate to you what they're expecting to receive. It serves really as an extension of the purchasing contract. So your purchasing team will want to make sure that your suppliers or customers each have a copy of the specification, so everyone is really reading off the same page or talking the same language. If they are purchasing something or have agreed to a price that doesn't match up with what the supplier or the customer is expecting, then there already becomes a conflict. So again, it's just really critical for the purchase of any raw material, any finished product, as well as any services, that there be a specification in place. We want that specification to be as complete and accurate as possible, meaning covering all characteristics which you feel are important. So over time, there is usually a tendency for a specification to grow. As you have questions about the product, or as you have new understanding of variation, you'll want to enhance that specification and include those parameters to really define what it is you're expecting or what it is that's acceptable. It not only gives the customer or the supplier an understanding of the product, but it also allows the two, again, to be speaking the same language and knowing that you're able to ensure that the product that you're producing or supplying is consistently meeting those same goals. Of course, the customer can't see every single widget or piece or product that comes out of your facility. Having some data that shows this is where we've measured those attributes that you consider acceptable or those attributes you consider important, and this is where they fall within the global production of this product, allows that customer to, again, have confidence that what they're receiving or selling or sharing with the public does, in fact, meet their expectations. Likewise, the supplier then has a way of knowing what the customer's expectations are and can develop processes and programs and purchase materials that will enable them to meet those expectations. So it's important for both organizations to really be committed to having a detailed and accurate specification so that that communication is, in fact, reliable. So the elements of the specification are those things that we think are important typically to define a product and process. And those would include the product description. Then we'll have some testing parameters. We'll talk about the packaging, labeling, shipping and storage, as well as regulatory and company requirements. And then finally, we're going to go over just to briefly touch on document control and how specifications are a confidential and controlled document under all schemes and for most companies. So we'll talk about what that means in terms of how you should secure those documents as well as maintain them. So the product description is probably one of the most important pieces of the specification. It's going to include some elements such as the primary ingredients. So if it's a beef product or a chicken or an apple or even a spice, whatever that primary ingredient is, that's going to start off your product name. And then it's going to build on any processing or critical ingredients or descriptors that further define and describe that product. And that's really important that you take that description out as far as possible so that, again, it's very clear, especially if you have similar products or they purchase similar products, that it's really very clearly defined one product from another. So we're going to illuminate any key characteristics. And, of course, there are standards of identity for products that you're required to meet, and that product name needs to conform to those standards of identity. So it's going to have the primary ingredient. That will have probably a standard of identity. There will be characteristics that will also have a standard of identity, as well as key ingredients that may also have a standard of identity, or at least be subject to naming rules. These can be found online on the FDA website. So I would encourage you, as you're marketing products, if you have anything that's going out into a retail environment, this is extremely critical. If it's back of house, food service type ingredient, you'll receive a lot less scrutiny unless it's a USDA product that needs to be label approved. in which case you will need to follow those rules once again and, of course, submit to USDA for label approval. Another situation that will require such regulatory oversight would be CN or child nutrition labeling. So on the slide, you'll see an example of, how you want to name a product. It will be like strawberry banana pancake sauce with other natural flavors. So you've got the key primary descriptor is that it's a sauce. That kind of describes the processing. The descriptor would be the strawberry banana pancake. So we've defined not only the key ingredients, but also the usage. And then finally, any descriptive ingredients such as natural flavors. And again, there's a standard of identity which goes along with determining how you will call out those ingredients. Another example would be your diced, fully cooked, seasoned chicken with water added, same elements there, and all the same rules apply. The next critical element to the specification after naming the product would be setting up the ingredient declaration. And these are also very well defined in that each ingredient needs to be listed in its order of predominance. There are some functional ingredients which are exempt if they're below a certain amount in the product that you will need to verify with the supplier. We'll have the rules regarding that, especially functional processing agents such as anti-caking agents or any type of flow agents or even applications that you apply to the equipment to assist in the movement or the flow of the product, any ingredients that are consumed in the process, alcohols and volatiles. So those types of ingredients aren't necessarily considered a part of the finished product, which are the ingredients that need to go onto the label. So be very careful and do your research and make sure that you have applied or that you have met all those requirements. And then especially for our food ingredients that contain allergens, be aware and know the Food and Allergy Protection Act, because we'll need to either have ingredients that are allergens bolded within the ingredient statement or a contained statement at the end identifying that those ingredients are present. Allergen recalls have been, I think, around the second or third highest number of recalls this year. And that number seems to be growing as there's been more oversight over labeling and allergen monitoring for the FDA and other regulatory agencies. So you want to, again, give your customers that information so that they can accurately label and meet the customer's expectations and needs in that respect. The next item of critical raw materials that will go into the formulation, and not having those raw materials consistent will change the finished product in such a way that it can be unacceptable to the customer. So it's very important in the specification that you define any critical raw materials that significantly impact the performance or the identity of the finished product. Some important information to note about those raw materials would be, it would be like almost a mini specification. So if it's important that you have a certain grade or size or origin or even any particular processing or ingredient restrictions that occur with those raw ingredients, you'll want to identify and define that within the specification. And once we've described the product, included the raw materials, we're going to move directly to the finished product. Without further ado, we'll be setting up what types of characteristics we can test for in order to objectively establish what the finished product will look like. We usually break those 3 testing parameters down into 3 categories of physical, chemical, and microbiological testing. Physical testing would be things like organoleptic testing, appearance, color, flavor, and aroma, things that we can prepare the product using the customer's recipe as well as preparation equipment and instructions to ensure that they're getting the product that they're expecting. It's